What's going on?
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gonna feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Got a taste for blood and my tongue keeps bleeding. From the words I spit, so sharp, so freezing. So cold, behold, frostbite they feeling. I could tear you apart or I could go heal them. Don't believe in fate, don't believe in ceilings. I just need a taste and my mind starts feeling. I don't pace myself, I grind on kneeling. Got lust for change, I just love the feeling. I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times. Cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times. Cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. Cause I'ma live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll soon be winning. I live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll soon be winning. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gonna feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gonna feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. We are back. It is our Sunday night show, Dead Air live on the Dead Air Full Spectrum channel. Next 2 hours in and around the topic of the paranormal with fantastic guests and in-depth discussions. And with me, as always, my name is George Lopez. Is Ken DaCosta up in the Great White North. Well, not yet, but soon, I'm sure.
Don't rush it. Don't rush it.
Yeah, we got cooler weather last couple of mornings. It was 68 degrees the morning before this one. This morning was 71. No humidity. I'll take it. Of course, then the sun came up and screwed it all up. Just absolutely ruined my day. But we'll get through it. It's the middle of August. We'll still get through it, thank goodness. A quick congratulations out there to Jason Hawes and his 100,000 followers. Congrats.
He's been on for what, like 5 days?
Yeah. I mean, seriously, it's just like, everybody just wants to follow the special, important celebrity people. Do you guys know that Ken has been on a Netflix show? Tell your friends. Tell you. Oh, I see the number going up already, Ken. I see the number going up already.
Yeah. Oh,
God, yes.
Two viewers. Oh, a thumbs up.
And we're scoring.
Awesome.
Anyway, we are simulcast with KGRADB.com, KGRA on Facebook. You can also find us on Twitter at Global Radio Live. Those of you who are watching us on KGRA can find us also on YouTube at Dead Air Nation. And don't forget the Facebook for ourselves, Dead Air Full Spectrum. You can follow us there for any updates, information regarding the show. Also, our personal Twitter, to Dead_Spectrum, and a Patreon account, which, again, we always appreciate. How many did we just get this last week? New Patreon members.
We have picked up a half a dozen. And last week here, or in the last 28 days, we have picked up something like 128 subscribers. We picked up 104 during last week's show. So give yourself a round of applause, because I am. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for your support, and hopefully, you find things on here that you're interested in. Take a look around, make yourself at home, and leave a comment. Leave a
This is
comment to us.
this is for our audience. Look at that.
Yeah.
What you guys do.
Golf clap.
You only get half applause because we still haven't hit 100,000 like Jason Hawes, but we're working towards it. We're like the slow moving tortoise. We're gonna get there. We will make it. But anyway, thank you guys for joining us so much. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, as somebody has already done diligently, hit that thumbs up, which I believe is right below the screen when you're watching it on YouTube, and the reminder bell, critically important. That gives you notifications when we have new information, new topics, and new shows, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight. Correct, Ken?
Yeah, we're going to take a little bit of your time tonight to tell you a little bit about what we have going on the channel a little bit, because, hey, every once in a while we like to blow our own horn, so to speak, and let you know about the programming that is coming and maybe down the road a little bit. And so, if you don't mind, we'd like to talk about that a little at some point, and hopefully you folks will join us along the way, because this is just, it's the cool place to be on Sunday night at 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. After that, you're on your own. Do what you want.
But what we're trying to do, and we're always trying to do, is to give you new content, new things to look forward to, so that you don't have to wait 7 days to come back and visit with us again. We've done it in the past with the Monday Night Monsters. We've done it in the past with Cody and Sartorius Haunted Museum. Then we fired them. We fired them for a while.
Clean house.
They begged to come back to Dead Air Full Spectrum. I mean, that's the way Ken interpreted it. I mean, they came to the house, they complimented his mediocre food just to, make him, and then they buttered him up for the kill. And now they're back on every other Thursday. But we've got some great new stuff to introduce as well. And we're going to be talking about that on our show tonight. And I think you guys are really going to be interested. And, Ken, if you want to do the honors.
Yeah. Right now, of course, a lot of you tuned in Thursday for the return of no longer live from the Haunted Museum, but live with Cody and Satori. And they came back. Their first show was this past Thursday, and it's pretty much what you would expect. It is an absolute riot. They are incredible together. They play some games and get at each other's throats, and we're here for that 100%. So now on alternating Thursdays, a new show, well, that was weird. And as it's described, a metaphysical comedy of errors with Carrie Hopper and Erin Bush. And basically, I'm not sure what to expect here. It may be just sort of a stream of consciousness thing, but we're going to talk a little bit about to that.
Are you pushing the accent correct? Well, that was weird, or is it well that was weird, or well that was weird? Which one?
Well, that was weird.
Or well, that was yes. So we're going to have to ask the stars.
Yeah, I think emphasis on capital letters, and of course, if you're a friend of mine, occasionally, maybe every week or so, Extremely Strange. Where I
thinking about there. What is that?
That is a puckwudgie.
That animal from the Muppets?
No, that is a puckwudgie. That is a Native American spirit that's indigenous to right here in New England in the Bridgewater Triangle. And apparently, I don't know, he's on my mind quite often. It's my imaginary friend. Just
puckwudgie.
Don't you judge me. Don't you judge me.
That's my new curse word.
That's it. So I like to get together with you folks and tell some stories. They say that fact is weirder than fiction, and that is exactly what Extremely Strange is about, where we tell some true stories out there, allow you to make up your own mind, give you both points of view. We'll give you the skeptic's point of view, the believer's point of view, and in the end, You vote live on show to find out which you believe in, and then you win a year's supply of Twinkies. Yeah,
We checked the budget.
yeah. You better hurry and get them, by the way. They're not going to make them anymore. It's like, I'm not joking.
Is there any way we can get Jason Hawes as a sponsor for this?
He's busy
He's
right
got the
now.
money, but
Yeah, I don't really want to say too much about it, but he seems like he's incredibly busy. Matter of fact, I texted Jason this morning, and
sorry.
Because Jason apparently has a degree in the black arts now, as we all know. Yes. I was wondering if it was possible for him to write a strong letter of recommendation to Hogwarts, because my granddaughter wants to apply there. And I haven't got a response back yet. So we'll see. Hopefully.
It's so hard to be a sponsor. It's so hard.
Well, maybe I'm just hoping he'll pull some strings for me. We'll see.
Go. All right. Thank you, guys. You could tell, Ken and I, well, again, we love to have fun on the show, and it's not all doom and gloom. It's not all dark and mysterious, and it certainly isn't a bitching platform. We have our moments like anybody else, but mostly it's just about enjoying ourselves, entertaining you guys, and getting you guys a chance to interact with us via the chat. So always, please join in with us. We enjoy the hell out of that. So, but Ken, let's get started with this show. And I know we've only got one half of the team to begin with, and we've got something exciting for the second half, correct?
Yeah, we thought it would be good on us to kind of introduce the new show. Very strong letter to follow, Jonathan. Yes, there will be.
Thank you. Jason will send a very strong letter to follow.
Don't make me go there, Jonathan. So, as we do with all of our shows that we've had here in the past, we like to bring on the host or co-host, talk a little bit about it. And we thought, kind of lighten things up a little bit this week. We're going to do exactly that. Now, joining us will be one of your all-time favorites in just a second, Erin Bush. In the second half of the show, her co-host, Carrie Hopper, is going to be coming to us live from Ohio State Reformatory.
Good God. Good God.
The Shawshank Redemption woman herself will be joining us in the second hour. And I'm told, rumor has it, that she's going to have some surprises for us, maybe, as far as where she's going to be and what she's going to talk about. So, Carrie... Yeah, I mean, she'd love to be here with us now, but she's actually running an event there, and it's 8 p.m. Eastern or just after. So they're kind of getting their feet wet and settled in once she does. They're
gonna do human sacrifice. How long have I been asking for this now on this show? This is awesome.
You have to understand the amount of paperwork that has to be filed for a human sacrifice. You think that it's just, okay, just line up the Vestal Virgins over there. That's not the case. Permits, council meetings, city council meetings, the paperwork filed, lawyers, there's a lot involved, George. It's not just,
I can think of a few YouTubers right off the bat. Anyway, I digress.
You have to appreciate the process. That's what I always say. But joining us here right now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get on with it, is one half of, and she's going to tell us how to pronounce it correctly. You all know her. You all love her. Let's bring in Erin Bush.
Hi.
Yay.
And friend.
And this guy back here, I can't get his idea. He won't start.
Oh, that's Bernard. And eventually, we're in negotiations with Bernie right now for his own show.
Perfect.
Yeah,
yep.
We're going to gear this toward dogs. My understanding is dogs is a huge demographic. They're always looking for something to watch. So we're kind of, we're workshopping it right now, paranormal for dogs and stuff. I love it.
Well, and of course he hasn't played with a squeaky toy all day, and now's the time he chooses. So, this is just where we are.
I hear you. Okay, so let's answer this before people start, alleging things and assuming things and suggesting things as they do on the internet, Erin. The question I have for you is, how is the title of the show pronounced?
Well, that was weird.
There you go. There you go.
It's something we say a lot. So Carrie kind of came up with that. We bounced around a bunch of different ideas, and that's just something we say a lot because we've both been trying to navigate this crazy spiritual journey that we kind of fumbled our way through later in life. There she is.
There she is. There's Carrie.
There's Carrie. She's doing a history of a haunting event at OSR. So she's hosting a private event at the prison tonight. So that's what they've got going on up there.
I hear you.
And a human sacrifice.
I'll have to ask her. Yeah. Carrie, is there a human sacrifice? You're going to have to either text me or respond in here and let me know. Maybe that's the surprise.
Maybe.
I doubt it, but you never know.
Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if there is to be a human sacrifice on this show, then forget everything I said about future shows on this channel. Forget what I said about this channel, actually. And remember, you were never here.
This doesn't exist.
No. You were
Burn
not
after reading or watching or whatever.
So, Erin, let's start off here. How did this show come together? I know there was a lot of heavy negotiation to give people, to pull back the curtain and let them know what it's like here on Dead Air. There was heavy negotiation for this back and forth. Basically, I said, hey, you want to do a show? And you guys said, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think the upside of the show is that we are totally pitching it as a train wreck because I feel like Carrie and I are both pretty good at just being ourselves on these things, and we just don't really care to present ourselves any differently. So the chaos that is who we are is going to probably come shining through. But I think for us, a lot of the things that we've discussed over the years, and Carrie and I have an interesting story of how we met, which I'll tell you guys if you want to know. But we've both been kind of navigating this kind of metaphysical, spiritual shit show, pardon my language, for a couple of years. And I think there's this misconception. I know when I work with clients a lot, people will say, oh, well, you've got this like sense of peace and you're so calm about things now. And the question is usually, how did you get there? And the assumption is it's just by, meditating and listening to music and going to sound baths and buying crystals. And while that's part of it, the reality of it is vastly different. I think there's a lot of screaming, crying, rocking in the corner. What the hell is going on? Why is this happening to me? You stop trusting anything. And so you kind of have to shed your old self because like once you open this Pandora's box, you can't shut it. You're kind of committed at that point. And so trying to navigate what life looks like, whether it's with abilities or it's, taking a new path, like going into energy work, whatever that looks like. Once you kind of jump on this train, if you weren't always on this train, it can be very, very scary, very exhausting. And then you're into all this, shadow work and, you're hating everything about yourself as you're trying to navigate shadow work. And then at some point you kind of come out of it on the other side. And I know, especially for me this year with everything we've had going on, well, one, being sober is important, but then two, I realized the amount of healthy coping skills I have now. Before it was like, here, let's slam this half a bottle of vodka. And now it's like, okay, let's go for a walk and, listen to music. I think a lot of the growth is learning more about yourself, learning how to handle things differently and kind of letting go of control. Like Andrea always says, just flip on your back and float, like stop being a salmon in your own life. Mm-hmm. And I feel like for both of us, we've had to learn that the hard way. But we've been through a lot of it together. Carrie and I didn't know each other. I got into this field September 2021. I got invited to go to the Vegas disaster of a con in December 2022. And it was a couple of weeks before the event was happening. And so I was asked to go out there and meet somebody and for a potential job. And I was looking at the hotels and the hotel room was going to be like $300 a night. I'm like, oh, well, I'm not doing that.
Whew.
And yeah, so well, they were at the where were we? The MGM maybe. But I was supposed to go investigate Tala with Tony Rathman and their group. Carrie was a part of that then. And I hadn't met her yet, didn't know anything about her. She's like, I've got a friend that runs a hotel. He's a manager at a hotel in Vegas. And she got me this room for like $59 a night. And we've just kind of clicked and hit it off since then. But we've been going through a lot of this spiritual stuff sort of together. I mean, she came into her abilities after I did. And she says Andrea did the mojo whammy on her, which is when Andrea opens your third eye, and it just went to shit real quick for her. So we want to give a good perspective, an honest look at what this journey looks like, either for people who are looking to get into it, are just getting into it, or, but just be honest about it, that it's not always fun and it's exhausting and it can be really ugly in points. And I think because there's so much kind of toxic spirituality out there, there's a misconception of what actually goes into this. Like, you don't just start wearing, a $300 pair of leggings, doing yoga 3 days a week and occasionally meditating and actually learn anything. You have to do the hard stuff. So that's kind of what we wanted to shine a light on, because I don't feel like a lot of people are talking about that. But because it was a disaster for both of us, we figured, well, why not focus on that part of it so people get an actual perception of what we went through, but all the good stuff that's come after, but then also help people learn about things like crystals and meditating and, insert idea here. Will it be scripted? Nope. Is it going to be a train wreck? Probably. Will there be lots of cussing? Probably. Until we get kicked off. But for us, it's just a cool opportunity to bring light to something that's not discussed a lot. And I think a lot of people have misconceptions, I know, especially about me, as far as how I ended up here with you guys on this show. And a lot of that is all the work I've done over the last 5 years. My life went 180. I went from paralegal to paranormal, and I've just been kind of hanging on for dear life ever since it started. And so,
if we can get you guys to cry on camera occasionally, we could be dead files.
True story.
I think you need to move out.
Me? Yeah.
Move out of your house.
Yeah.
Dead files cry.
Young priest, shaman.
Right. But that's, we both do so many different things. I mean, she's much, much more gifted sensitive than I am. My wheelhouse is really energy work. But we both know what our lane is, and we are very comfortable in those lanes. And we're not trying to, regurgitate a bunch of, information from a book. I mean, although we've done a lot of reading and learning about this stuff, we really want to come at it from our personal, life experience, So that pretty much sums us up. Yep. That right there.
Yeah, there it is.
I've only met her twice in person.
Yeah. You would mention Pandora's boxes, which is one of George's favorite terms. I could almost see his eyes light up. Pandora's box.
Here we go.
He loves that stuff.
Don't talk about my box.
Yeah, George loves that. There's no turning back now. We're in too deep, dude. We're in some pretty shit now, man.
Release the hellhounds.
You might decide after the first show that you're like, oh God, what have we done? Why did we let these two idiots have their show? But we're going to do our best, and we hope that people will at least learn something. But it is definitely Pandora's box.
Yeah. I think you should start off. I'm just spitballing here now, Erin. But I think you should start off next Thursday with you casting some sort of spell and or curse to somebody that's willing in the chat, and then have Carrie remote view to their location and be able to explain what she's seeing. Just throwing it out there.
I don't hate the remote view idea, but
Before you answer, Cody and Story pick random people to read angel cards?
Cards.
Or the other day, we're a little different type of show. We'll pick you randomly, and maybe there's a curse that will place on you or a person of your choosing.
Right.
But your life must be boring. If your life is already a shambles, you won't recognize it. So just understand that part of it.
You make a valid point.
But I
I'm
digress.
seeing like some real. This is a target-rich environment in this chat as I'm looking at the names. Jen Heinzen's in there right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to say any names out loud.
No.
Melissa Blackman, or so I'll just keep those to myself.
I love Jen. She's one of my favorite people ever. Yeah.
So
we'll see.
what I'm like, we're walking on each other here right now. So
I don't know what that means, Carrie.
I have a question. So you're talking about like the visceral aspect of the metaphysical, right? What I mean, you go to conferences, you buy the crystals, but there's something underlying it. You can apply that to like paranormal investigation, whatever. You can buy all the toys, but there's something visceral about it where you have to decide, what is it that I'm in this for? And how do I handle things going sideways?
Yeah.
Right. So I would take it that you guys are going to like kind of toss away a little bit with the, the glamorous part where we're and everything. And like you called it very appropriately a shit show.
Yeah. I mean, because it's not pretty. I mean, I know my experience was really ugly. I mean, I went to see a counselor for something else, learned she had a whole other side of this metaphysical thing, which I knew nothing about. The only thing I knew was that chakras were pretty colors. I mean, I didn't know anything. And she's the one who told me. Bernie says hello.
Hi, Bernie.
She's the one who told me, once you open this box, you can't close it. So you have to decide if this is something you even want to tolerate. Because I think a lot of times in this situation where you do go down that road, the old you sort of dies. And it's a weird thing. Your friendships change, your relationships change, because you're literally changing the vibration of your own energetic field, right? So that can be really hard. You do get the upside of, the meditation and the pretty crystals and all of that. But for me, those tools are ways I maintain my own energetic kind of balance, for lack of a better phrase. But a lot of this is ugly. A lot of it's not pretty. And a lot of it is really, really hard to get through. It gets harder to have small talk with people. I mean, I think I've gotten to the point where I kind of prefer to be alone. I was never like that before, because I'm just so much more aware of what energy does to me personally. And I feel like if we taught energy in schools the way I've learned about it as an adult, I think the world would be a much nicer place. I think people would have a much more grounded understanding of who they are and why they are the way they are. But that's what's hard about this. It's people talk about shadow work all the time, but nobody really gives a good definition of what shadow work looks like. And it's really a fancy way of saying, or a silly way, I guess, depending on how you look at it. Taking your worst sides of yourself, your shitty coping skills. And, for me, I'm an alcoholic. I've been sober 9 years. But why did I get there? And having to take the worst parts of yourself that basically allowed you to survive.
Yeah.
And learn to make peace with them and love them because they allowed you to survive. It's not about canceling the dark out. Everything's got a balance. And
I call it hugging the cactus. Sometimes you have to hug the cactus.
Yep.
The worst part of yourself, you got to wrap your arms around it and go from there.
So it's that part, because I think people, especially in this field, didn't know me before I was into this stuff. So they have a very different perspective because they only know who I am now, not the complete disaster. Sorry, my bangs keep getting in my face. That's why I keep doing this and I can't see. I was a complete disaster before I got into this stuff. And I have a better sense of self now at 45 and the work I've done in 5 years than I've ever had. And I'm stoked about that. I wouldn't be sitting here if I hadn't made a lot of those decisions and have the friendships and the cool things I've gotten to do if I hadn't done that work to kind of figure out my own value.
Let me ask you a question, Erin, not to sound disparaging, but how do you differentiate, if you're able to, between how you were explaining not having the patience for conversation as much, wanted to be somewhat of a loner, more so, between that and just getting older and the wisdom that just comes with time, comes with age. Because same thing, I could talk about my 30s, and between the Jägermeisters and the
Jaeger.
Cuba Libres and all that stuff that
Mhm.
I used to, and now I'm like, there's no way I'm going to deal with that anymore. Is there a tangible difference that, again, for our audience out there that is questioning whether or not it is A, ability, or B, age, what could be the telltale sign for them?
I think for, in my case, I mean, I can only speak for myself. I think I had already been sober for several years before I even touched any of this stuff. I mean, I had a good 4.5 years under my belt of just my normal life, but I couldn't figure out why I was so unhappy. I'm married to a great guy. I live on the beach in St. Augustine. I was working for a great law firm. I was sober. Things were good, but Bernie's coming in for the close up. I was absolutely miserable and I couldn't figure it out. But I think the difference for me after getting into this stuff, the difference for me was in those 4.5 years of sobriety, I think I was still doing a lot of the things that everybody expected of me. Right. And I think the difference became, I was always known as a person who was outgoing and very social, and surprise, I'm really not. I think I just was painted as that person. So I felt like the expectations I had to continue to carry. And so in learning and doing this stuff, it was like, okay, you don't have to be the social butterfly. You don't have to live up to that expectation. It's completely fine to not want to have to. I'm sorry about the squeaking. Bernie, you are just making this a disaster. And he's got there's a whole basket of them. So if I get rid of this one, there's just going to be like 4 more behind it. So I'm sorry. But
it takes the dog to humanize you. Don't worry about it.
He got a new dragon today. That's what he's playing with.
So he's got a toy.
He's got a toy. He's going to bed now, so hopefully that will stop. But I think the biggest difference was for me, once I started learning about myself, kind of reconciling with, the bad decisions I made and the expectations I was trying to live up to, I really learned about myself. I'm comfortable. I guess I'm what you call like an introverted extrovert. Like if I go to a con or if I do something like this, I'm pretty outgoing. But I think what I learned is I'm actually not a social person. I don't really enjoy it. I was just always told that I was one. And so I think in this whole path, this whole journey and all this time, slowly I've been learning that I don't have to live up to anybody else's expectations but my own. I know that I'm a good person, that I always lead with kindness, that I always try to help people with no expectations at the end of the day. And that's enough as it is. I don't have to be a social person. I don't have to continue to toe the line for other people. Like, I think I learned that I didn't need as much validation as I had been looking for before all of this, that I'm good as I am. And that took a while to get there.
Well, I know that as a kid, and there's probably a lot of people that can relate to this. As an adult, I took this test because I felt like it. And there is no doubt that I was ADHD as a kid. They didn't call it ADHD. They called it freaking kid can't pay attention. You know what I mean? But I found out that definitely ADHD positive, and in some ways on the spectrum. Okay, but I was high functioning.
Right.
A lot of times ADHD, when you're inside your own heads, one of my coping mechanisms was to be very social. If there was a party going on and I wasn't there, I was upset about that. So I think a lot of people are able to function on a higher level with these things that they have to overcome.
Yeah.
And I know that for me, I had to overcome.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. And it was a struggle. So eventually, like George says, with a little bit of age comes a little bit of wisdom, but there's also a self-realization. This is what I mean by hugging the cactus. Don't deny yourself.
Bingo.
Exactly. Don't deny yourself, because you had people doing that for us when we were kids. They were called parents.
Right.
Straighten up and fly right, because there was no such thing back then as who now?
Right.
But You also, I never wanted to use that for a crutch either, for bad behavior or my mistakes in life, whatever they were. Well, what do you expect? I'm ADHD. It's like, no, nah, not really. It's just one of those things that explains a lot.
Yeah.
When I was younger and early 20s and stuff like that. But eventually, hey, by the grace of God, I met a girl. It was usually the way it goes, and the family and grandkids now. So eventually it's like, oh, wow, there's something bigger than me.
Right.
There's something more important than me. Wow, who knew?
Yeah, and I think that's true. I mean, I was not diagnosed ADHD, and I've wondered, thought about getting tested for ADHD. I fall into a lot of those kind of neurodivergent kind of, behaviors. But I think too, it's just, we live in a society, especially as women, it is just hard. One, it's hard to be human, period. But it's extra hard to be a woman because, you come into a world where all these expectations are put on you. And, I know in the South, it's better to be polite and kind, right? So that's a big thing I struggled with. It was better to be polite and kind. And I'm not saying that's my parents. It's just society in general, especially down here in the South. But it was better to be polite, quiet, and kind than to actually have an opinion or speak up for yourself. So a lot of this over the last, and it's something I still work through. That's the other thing. Like, if people were honest with themselves about what this path looks like, you're always going to be learning and growing. Like, if you tell me that you have learned it all, you've got it all figured out, I'm going to call you out on your bullshit because it's just not true. Healing is not linear. It is a spiral. And the universe, sometimes you think you've learned a lesson and the universe will bring it around one more time to be like, all right, asshole, let's see if you actually got it this time. And that's the reality of what this looks like. And for me, a lot of it was learning to be okay to stand and understand that I was okay just as I was. And that was really, really hard to get there. I mean, I know for me, the thing I love about this field, and I've worked I was a paralegal, I've worked in finance, I've worked in mortgage, I was always somebody's executive assistant, but without those coping skills, I was constantly killing myself working, not because I cared so much about the job, but because I needed the validation from myself, right? So my helping wasn't really altruistic because really at the end of the day, it was for me. But the thing I've learned now is that I guess if you're talking about love languages, I've never read the book, but I would fall under acts of service. I love to help people. That's just who I am. But now I do it purely for the reason of helping people. I don't need the validation anymore. And that was a big lesson. So I think working this path and people will say to me if they come to me for energy work, well, I'm on medication or I'm with a therapist. Should I stop? No, this is all excellent things that you can do in addition to the things you're already doing. So if you're working with a psychiatrist or a psychologist or you're taking medication, great. You can add in, for me, this is kind of trying to teach, I needed it dumbed down, right? Like, I'm not a person who's going to sit there and say, oh, I meditate for an hour every day. No, I can't sit still for more than like 5 minutes, but I learned how to get there. So for me, it's giving people an opportunity to kind of play like spirituality for dummies, right? Because who's got time to spend hours and hours on it? I mean, I don't even have kids. So trying to be sensitive to the fact that we all need spirituality, if that's what you're looking for, in a way that's palatable for us. And also that there's really not a wrong way to do it if your intentions are good.
Right.
So we just want to help people along on this path. And Millsy, and if you want to get, if you want to learn something, we're there to teach you, but we want to be silly about it because it's not always a fun topic. It's not always an easy thing to go through. But Carrie and I are both really, really good at self-deprecating humor. So that's helpful. But it's standing and being who you are and being comfortable with that. And I mean, Lord knows I've pissed a lot of people off in this field. And I think a lot of times when you come across someone who really doesn't have an agenda, because that's not normal, you get a lot of the projection because they're expecting you to end up being the asshole in the end. That, you wanted this or you wanted that.
They're obsessing over other people's lives.
Right.
That's a zero-sum game.
Exactly. Right.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's a lifetime of this.
Right.
when you do that, and a lot of people who do, you'd be amazed how many people were either bullied
Yes.
or were bullies.
And I was bullied a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Badly, psychologically, even by teachers.
Me too, teacher. And then a not so nice first ex-husband. That was really where the damage lived. I mean, that took me 16 years to put myself back together after that. So I think it's being proud of who you are, and we always say doing the work, which is a stupid phrase, but it's true because this shit is not fun.
Right.
It's just not. That's the reality of what this is. If you're coming into this later in life, you're having to undo X amount of years of the shitty coping skills. And that takes work, but it also teaches you patience. It teaches you to just be in the moment of where you are, accept your progress, but also to celebrate even like little steps of things that you shift and change. Like it's that kind of thing.
Well, it has
if you're just joining us, ladies and gentlemen, this is The View.
Yeah.
And
Psych 101 edition.
Psych 101.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Whoopi Lopez, go.
Yeah, it is the problem I have. No, I think that it's potentially a good coping method when you were talking about right now the aspect of I'm not good enough, which could be detrimental.
Yes.
Or you could turn that into a positive. So it's the mindset of the individual. I'm not good enough. I will ascend. I will do better. I will choose a different path versus surrender. And all too often, that seems to be the easier way to go, the lazier way to go.
I think a lot of people say things like, well, that's just who I am. And to some degree, that's true. But
I hate that.
I find that to be a cop-out. Like, I've had plenty of trauma in my life too, but it doesn't make me an asshole. I mean, I'm generally a pretty nice, pleasant person to be around, but I know what it's like to be treated that badly. Now, fortunately, I had amazing parents, had an amazing childhood. My parents are amazing, but most of this happened to me in school or, later on in life. And that really affects you. And
socially.
Right. So for me,
you were socially awkward then? Would you consider yourself socially awkward?
I think I'm still socially awkward. I mean, if you see me at an event, like when I met Andrea at this Strange Escapes thing, when I was going to a bar, which was not a problem for me, but as a sober person, that makes other people who drink uncomfortable. I walked in, but I was scared to death. I'd never met these people. I didn't even know. Yeah, I almost didn't get out of the car because I don't like being in groups. I don't go to yoga classes. So when the celebrities start rushing in, everybody who's at the event starts charging them. And I'm just like, I'll be in the back here just kind of observing what's going on because I think I'm always socially awkward. Now, of course, I can find my way now because obviously with all of us in this field, we all have a common denominator. So you kind of skip the small talk. You can get right into the good shit. And that's kind of where I want to live as much as I can. But yes, socially awkward. Absolutely. I played sports though. So I really didn't have a lot of time to socialize. I played a lot of volleyball. So I don't think I realized.
You get into that comfort zone, and getting into that comfort zone, sometimes you can surprise yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, again, I was not an adventurer. And then one day, what I think of the movie with Jim Carrey, Yes Man, but it kind of really bodes the aspect of life. Say yes to things, try different things, because I would still be stuck in South Florida today if I didn't take an opportunity for a job here in Daytona, and I switched out from there, and that opened me up getting into the paranormal field. You just don't know. Get out of that box, of that comfort zone, and you may find that you are good enough or more of what you can achieve in life than just where you're at right now. But that had to be hard for you, getting out of that zone of comfortability of I don't want to be in any type of crowd. Now you're going to be doing your own podcast on Thursdays, every other Thursday.
The thought of doing any kind of podcast or any kind of video or anything 3 or 4 years ago was absolutely terrifying. I mean, I remember doing Andrew's show for the first time. I was scared out of my mind. I mean, but I think you've hit a very important point, George, because I was very much that person. I said no to my life for years. I always stayed in the same working box. You know, I got out of finance and moved to Florida, got into law. Like, I was very comfortable in the person that hides in the back of the office that nobody ever sees, but that just works real hard. That's where I lived, and that was fine. I didn't like to travel. I didn't like to do anything. And then I meet Andrea, and she's like, here, jump on this crazy train. Let's go. And I just at that point, I decided, I was like, okay, I'm just not going to say no to my life anymore. I mean, I've driven to Rhode Island 4 or 5 times, drove to OSR. I've gotten to do so many amazing things because, just to your point, I stopped saying no to my own life.
Yeah.
So that's a really big point.
I had a question for everybody. If you're watching us out there, do you think that the paranormal field is a draw for people with a certain mindset?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People that have been a little bit disaffected in life, that they find a certain freedom to explore, whether that's spiritually, technologically, however you approach these type of things.
Yeah.
That it's kind of a siren call for people who otherwise in a functioning world need some type of release.
Yeah.
Or like that creative side of your brain where you're willing to entertain extreme possibilities.
Yeah.
Which I think is why the scientific, excuse me, the scientific field and the paranormal field are constantly at odds with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's two different types of minds at work. And why the hell isn't there room for both of them?
Right.
So let's start with the first part first. Do you think that this is something that people of a certain mindset might gravitate to?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, think about it. I mean, in the South, we say we embrace our weirdness and put it on the front porch and give it a sweet tea. I mean, for me, it was the first time I had been a part of something where I felt like I was home, that I felt like I look at the family I've built in the last 3 years of people. I didn't know who any of these people were. I didn't know who either of you were. I mean, I have been so fortunate to, have been taken under Andrea's wing and, y'all's wings, gotten very close with the Zappases, all of my friends at the Conjuring House. I mean, those people are now family to me. And if I hadn't decided to just say, screw it, let's give this a whirl, I'd still be sitting in some shitty law office somewhere down here in St. Augustine going, I hate my life still.
I think this is a safe haven for the disenfranchised. I think, again, that it doesn't matter what your political beliefs are, what your religious beliefs are, what your social beliefs are. You have a common interest with regards to this. And, while people may debate where the spirits are coming from, you can't debate the experience. You just simply can't. You can have 5 people in a room say, did you hear that? Did you see that? Did you feel that? And there's a camaraderie behind that. And
there is.
And people feel, I think they feel that it's a bit of a safe space once they get past the fear factor, once they get past that whole terror part of it. But great question, Ken. I think it's really, really important to understand that.
Yeah. Well, I think, for us, those of us who are always a little outside of social circles for whatever reason, if you didn't understand it, it's because you haven't found your tribe yet. And I know that gets tossed around a lot, but I think that is so very true, where you find a place, if you're a little weird or your interests are a little off or you're into this or you're into that, we're not mainstream. I guess that's really where I'm at. I mean, of course, your TV's made it a little bit more mainstream, but my end of things is really not. It's getting there, but to be around everyone who feels that way, feels a little off to the side maybe, or a little weird, you find your home in this place. At least that's how it's been for me.
Well, if you are a loner, it's a perfect field. If you are a social butterfly, it's a perfect field.
Yeah.
You can really, just kind of pick and choose how much of it that you wish to immerse in versus, there are some you have no choice in a job or in a pastime. You're either, if you're going to be a painter, you're probably going to be an isolationist. You
Right.
know, I enjoy painting, but I miss people, that kind of thing. Here, you pick and choose right away.
Right.
Well, I was like growing up, total
Mhm.
jock, but always had an interest in this thing because it gave me a chance to exercise something other than my muscles.
Mhm.
It got to, I got to exercise a different side of myself. Those extreme possibilities I talk about, and the creative side. I was not a history nerd in school. I got into this field, and now I am a total history nerd.
Right.
I didn't care about physics and things like that and science. I got into this field, and now I'm not a physicist, but I have a working knowledge of physics now.
Right.
Math, the English language, all of those things, if you had the freedom to be more of yourself and not as structured,
Yeah.
I think that kids would be better off.
I agree.
You
I
know,
completely agree.
and this is not a woke thing. This is just everybody is not in a cookie cutter.
Correct.
We talk about individuality, but while a kid's in school, we want them to be part of a herd.
Right.
Well, what do you expect when a kid is finally on their own? Of course, they're going to go ape shit.
Nuts. Yeah, I did.
But that's what I'm thankful for this field for, is all these disciplines I was able to and more interested in applying them after I started doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just a strange kind of journey,
I mean, I had never really even heard of Reiki, and I was suggested to take like a level 1 class because I literally knew F all about any of this stuff. She's like, try a Reiki level 1 course just to kind of learn how energy works in the body. And I absolutely fell in love. I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And I think in taking, to like George's point, starting to take risk and saying yes to your life and trusting the universe. That's the biggest thing for me. And I know that is annoying to people, but I think it annoys people because it's true. I've learned how little control we have over anything other than ourselves and our own reactions to things. But that's not something I learned until I started doing this kind of stuff. And, take a risk, learn something new. I mean, I've done some pretty wild stuff in the last couple of things I never would have thought. If you'd told me I had worked at the Conjuring house, I just said no. Because when the movie came out, my husband's like, you want to go see it? And my response was, F no, because I don't do horror films.
Fast forward.
Fast forward. But again, still, even at this point, I much prefer being behind the scenes, helping people I know, like, designing graphics for Dead Air, or, helping Cody and Satori with what they need, or helping Andrew with what she needs. It's all stuff behind the scenes. And I don't care that people know what I do or don't do. I still prefer to be behind the scenes. That's where I'm comfortable. But I get to help people that are out there in the paranormal on a much larger scale than I am be successful at what they do. I started kind of calling myself a Paranormal Girl Friday, because I have a special set of skills. No, they're broad, but I've learned a lot. I was an admin for 20 plus years. So it's an underutilized thing in this field. I think people are learning. And so I've just tried to, be helpful to people and fill a need where it's needed. And I've just gotten to do some stuff.
You sound like Liam Neeson there. I have a specific set of skills.
I have a very special set of skills. I will find you and I will kill you.
If you come clean with me, that'll be the end of it.
Well, speaking of which, and I won't speak for Ken, I'll let him speak on it himself, but I think that's one of the reasons too. These people who do YouTube channels to do investigations and include all these theatrics, we do take it personal because we love this field. We love the people in this field. We love the possibilities within this field. And when you see the theatrics that go on, and we know it's nothing like that when you're doing an investigation, especially if you've been doing it for me almost 2 decades, for Ken, well, a little longer. But it really is one of those things that, you kind of sit there and you get frustrated about. It just takes a little bit of logic to understand no different than a lot of the paranormal apps, no different than the TV shows. The majority of it is for viewership and entertainment. So, you got to kind of, put it to the side from what the mainstream paranormal investigative teams are out there. Ken?
Yeah, don't tell me what I know and what I don't know.
Yeah.
To sum it up, nutshell, don't tell me what I know.
Right.
Because I'm not trying to tell you what you know.
Right.
To be real, to be true from your own experiences. They're your experiences.
Yep.
So I can't point at the camera and say, hey, they're your personal experiences. Okay. Well, allow me mine too.
Right.
For what I know to be true, what I believe to be true, and not fooling myself about any of it. Because if you think, you don't know me very well. A lot of people, you don't know the way I approach things.
Yeah.
I am a chocolate-covered bastard when it comes to, proving things and all the rest of it. And sometimes I'm that way to the people I'm closest with because I want to bring them along the same way.
That's how I feel too.
If you're in my group or whatever, I want you to try as best you can to think this way.
Mm-hmm.
We got 60 seconds before break. And here's the one thing that I have to say. I'm going to say it. Ken was like, I don't even want to go down this road this week. And I'm really kind of not. I'm just going to bring something up. Our viewership last week, because of the topic, because of the content, because of the guests, exceeded over 5,000 views. On average, our shows are between 250 and 350 views in history, in our past. So what you would see on any other channel is let's keep doing it. Let's keep bringing up that topic. Let's keep bringing up those guests. Let's keep bringing up the whatever thumbnails we're going to. And there's a reason why we don't do that, because there's so much more to the field. We're not chasing viewers and likes and I mean, we love it. We love you guys that are joining us. We love our audience.
Right.
But to just go after it and say, how can we beat that this week? What are we going to do now? And we're seeing that
you're a slave to it
in droves. And exactly. And at that point in time, you can't go outside of it. We don't care. That's one of the privileges of getting old. We don't care.
You want to hear what Ben Hansen has to say? Don't you want to hear what Elizabeth Saint has to say?
Right.
Or Nick Groff or Steve DeShavi or Travis Walton? Or don't you want to hear what those people have to say rather than us pontificating every week about what grinds our gears and what pisses us off? And
and don't you want to hear about what Carrie Hopper has to say? She's coming up after the break. But we're going to go ahead, guys, take our break right now. You're watching Dead or Alive on the Dead or Full Spectrum channel. We'll be back right after this.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
As UFO reports come in from around the world, the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, is there. We continue to explore new cases and build our massive database. We share our information with the world in a number of ways. If you would like to be part of our investigative team, you are always welcome. What could be more exciting than exploring the UFO question firsthand? Join MUFON, find your friends.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
A new commercial for our Patreon page. And again, as Ken just said, beginning of the show, half a dozen more joined. We got to figure out a way to getting more people on screen for our town hall tomorrow night.
Yeah, we've got about 45 patrons right now. It's not bad. We just started a few months ago, but the thing that we find gratifying, and I don't know because I don't have anything to compare this to, but people say there is more content on our Patreon than normally for others. Okay, I'll take your word for it because I'm not a subscriber to 100 of these things. But if that's the way you feel, then it makes us feel good. And come and check it out, because there are a lot of discussions with our patrons and our subscribers, and we go into a lot of things. And what's gratifying is that it really has been this solid community of people not only see each other on screen, but private message each other, talk openly about things, ask questions, chat. So the most gratifying thing I think is just to bring a bunch of people together in this little community, sub-community that we have there. And hey, Chris Allgood's there. Hi, Audra. How you doing? God, I haven't seen you guys in so long. Oh, idea for a show. Never mind. Carry on.
Carrie said I was texting her. She's having some tech issues, so she'll hop on when she can. She's in the bowels of that prison somewhere, and I can attest to the Wi-Fi is great.
The Shawshank Redemption.
Let's check Carrie's bowels right now and see how she's doing. There she is.
Hi, yes, Ken, George, Erin, Carrie Hopper coming to you live from the Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio. Now, as you can see, the room that I am in is called the West Attic. You can tell this room has a very foreboding atmosphere. The building is currently being overrun by paranormal investigators walking around and speaking to seemingly no one. This building was completed in construction in 1910. It actually started admitting its first inmates in 1896. These were first-time offenders, younger typically than the inmates at the Ohio State Penitentiary, but too old for juvenile detention. They were sent here to the reformatory with the idea that they could be reformed through religion, education, and learning a trade. Unfortunately, when the Ohio State Penitentiary caught fire, those inmates were moved here to the Ohio State Reformatory. In fact, the room that we're in, the West Attic, is where they were housed. Unfortunately, these inmates were much more violent, repeat offenders, and their felony lists were miles long. Through the years, through overcrowding, underfunding, and deplorable living conditions and inhumane treatment, lawsuits brought by inmates forced the Ohio State Reformatory to shutter its doors in 1990. Now, in 1994, the building was made famous by the blockbuster movie The Shawshank Redemption, based on a Stephen King book. Most of the movie was shot here in the Ohio State Reformatory, and just last week, it celebrated its 30th anniversary of its release. Now, the paranormal investigators here are currently partaking in a podcast event by History of a Haunting podcast. Here we go, lovely shirts. Is hosted by myself and one of my best friends, Laura Ackerman. Now, I do have one of the lead investigators of one of the teams here investigating tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Scott Reddick from Piedmont Paranormal Investigation Team. Hey, Scott, come on in.
All right. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing good, good. So I understand that this is your first time to Ohio State?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's the first time for me and pretty much everybody on my team.
Everybody on the team?
Yes.
Okay, good, good. I like first timers. It's kind of like taking them to Disneyland. Now, what were your first impressions when you pulled up to the building and then walked inside?
Well, just the grand magnitude of the building itself really leaves you in awe. And then when you you come in and they start giving you the tour. Even on the tour, we started hearing noises, hearing beats, bangs, and certain things. You're starting to get excited that this is going to be a good night.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, you are very familiar. You have been on our show before. For those of you who don't know, we do a recap episode of all of our investigations, and we invite members of the teams to come on and showcase the evidence that they capture at the location. Scott and his team have been on History of a Haunting before when we did Trans-Allegheny, correct?
Trans-Allegheny and the USS North Carolina.
Yes, and the USS North Carolina. So it is old hat for Scott and his team to be on the show. They are fabulous investigators. Their investigation methods capture a lot of really compelling, let's call them anomalies. I know we do like to call them evidence sometimes, but for the sake of argument, let's call them anomalies. Now, you said that you have already started getting activity.
Yes.
Already.
Absolutely. In this particular area alone, me and one of my investigators, we were doing a quick EVP session. We were getting noises back in the showers. One was very close over my right shoulder. Fortunately, we have had audio running at the time, so come review time and see what he comes up with.
Good, good. I do believe another guest here tonight was pushed. She thought she tripped over an uneven flooring, but it was a completely flat floor. So she has no explanation for suddenly just lunging forward. So Scott, I thank you very much for your time. I will let you get back to your investigating. And I'm going to go ahead and just continue. I thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right, sounds good. Let me have my earbud.
All right.
Okay.
Scott, thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So guys, we are having a great time here. For fans of the podcast, they will know that History of a Haunting has been on a hiatus for much of 2024. Laura and I are super excited to announce that we will be back with brand new episodes starting September 2nd. And we're going to come back with Bobby Mackey's Music World, something that we have had on our episode list for a very long time. Super excited about it. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and toss it back to you guys. I understand you're talking about a brand new show to the Dead Air Full Spectrum family, hosted by the incomparable Erin Bush and myself. Well, that was weird. And that is the end of my news bit.
Love it.
Carrie, how do you say it? How do you pronounce the title of the show?
Well, that was weird.
See? Okay. See, it's different now.
Yep.
It's different now. That was weird as opposed to that was weird. Okay. So I rest my case.
Yep.
There was a debate.
I say, well, that was weird. You say that, whatever.
The first half hour of the show, we were, we had to apologize to each other. We were running a little hot about the whole thing, but we,
Ooh, wow, all right. I'm sorry I missed that.
No, you're not.
I'm probably not. I will go back and watch this later. It's probably tomorrow, though. So yeah, guys, how's it going? What have we been talking about?
Actually, we're talking about growing up. We're talking about the things that people have to overcome. So we got into a little bit about what you two ladies are going to be talking about is dealing with energy, dealing within yourself. We were talking about things like people who were diagnosed ADHD or on the spectrum that find out later on in life that this explains maybe some of the things that they went through when they were younger, when us old folks didn't have an acronym for it.
Sure.
So basically just kind of going through that, Carrie, a little bit.
Okay.
And what it is that you folks are going to cut through with this kumbaya metaphysical and like peel the curtain back away what it's like actually to deal with this kind of thing and pursue it and embrace it.
Cool. Yes, that's exactly what Erin and I have talked about. And Erin and I have actually talked about this for the last couple of years and wanting to really be able to provide a safe space for maybe people that are brand new to their abilities. They're not entirely sure how they work for them, how to handle new abilities that they may get. It is a very rough road. It's certainly I was watching when Erin was telling you guys about how I call it Andrea's mojo whammy. And when that happened, it felt very, I cried for a while. I cried for a couple of weeks because it felt very violating. I had images and thoughts and memories in my head that weren't mine. So yeah, we want to talk about what that's like and how to work through that. And we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff, Erin. Soul and ego. We're going to talk about Reiki. We're going to talk about the Akashic records. We're going to talk about meditation. We've got a whole bunch of stuff that we want to bring to folks, and we want. I was also watching when Erin said, this is a train wreck, because it is, and we want to bring an element of comedy to it because, laugh or cry. This is your life.
It's happening.
It's happening.
Jump on the train. Let's go.
Yeah, seriously, hop on the train or get off the tracks. Really,
right?
It's kind of what it's like. So,
a question for you, real quick: when you're in an environment like you are right now, with some people who are empathic or pick up that kind of energy of vibrations, what should they be concerned about, and what shouldn't they be concerned about?
Certainly that that feeling, that vibe that you're not wanted in an area, or that like something is following you, it doesn't feel great. If you get that vibe, and I think whether you have abilities or not, everybody does have that sixth sense where they just feel uncomfortable. Get out of that area. It's not worth it. Let somebody else go and investigate. And Ohio State Reformatory truly has a lot of those areas.
Like the room you're in right now. You would go there. You did it because it's my least favorite, didn't you? I hate you.
Sure did.
Love you, mean it. I almost ran out of there, by the way, the first time we went in there. It was not good.
Yeah, the things that happened in this room, this is where they housed all of those violent criminals when the penitentiary caught fire. So this is the room that happened in. So let's just take a quick little look. I mean,
well, and down at that far end, Carrie, if I'm not mistaken, are showers, right?
That's correct. Yes.
So when we were there last year, I was there with Carrie, and I could see them all stacked up on, not laying, but just all hunched into this corner. And I could not get out of that room fast enough because it felt very predatory, very not good. And she had to keep me in the room. Like I was ready to beat feet out of there. And she's like, nah, bitch, you're staying. You know, you gotta tough this one out.
Sorry, listen, you're in the life, like you got to get used to this.
Yeah, it's terrible.
A quick question for both of you, right? If you're in that type of environment and you have a purpose there, the purpose is to collect data that may turn into evidence or see something for yourself. At what point do you think that maybe you should fight through that feeling to continue? I mean, you know, you're talking about not feeling comfortable, but how can I put this? I think paranormal investigation in time is all about feeling comfortably uncomfortable, because those things are going to happen. So how much, Carrie, do you think would you recommend that somebody push through that?
I think as far as you're willing to go, up until the point where if you feel that you might be physically harmed, that's kind of how I did it. Just, it is an uncomfortable feeling, but like you said, with a purpose, maybe you're trying to get a story. Maybe you're trying to, you know, correct history and make sure that the truth is actually what is being told. You're trying to get that information. It's kind of the same when you're talking with just a living human. You know, you just got to push through the discomfort, and you really need to focus on the task at hand, really.
Right.
But if you start to feel like you would be physically harmed in some way, then at that point, abandon ship. It's not, you know, putting yourself in some kind of physical danger is never, you know, part of the end game. No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get it twisted. Nobody's saying that it should be suck it up cupcake.
Right.
Because, you know, you have your limitations, but there does come a point, whether you are sensitive or not, that, you know, sometimes you've got to condition yourself to work through those things.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
It's a process. It's a process. Like with Erin, you know, and her talking about how when she was in this room, she was super uncomfortable. And I was like, you're going to be okay. Because I was there with her. And, you know, she really didn't like it. But I mean, again, it's just it's just part of being in the paranormal life, right?
Well, it's trusting the people around you.
Yeah.
It's trusting who you're with, and, you know, going with your gut, and, you know, knowing that the people, because I mean, I don't investigate. I'm not an investigator. And I've leaned a lot on Carrie for things. I mean, I've had some experiences on the farm where I've wanted to run out of the house, but it's like, okay, for me, it's like, am I safe? Do I know that I'm safe? And my senses are just freaking out because this is a new experience for me, or I'm not used to this, or whatever. But it's like Carrie said, you kind of have to know where your boundaries are, really tap into what your body's telling you. That's the big one for me, is what's my body telling me?
Yeah, for sure.
And I'll make a decision off that.
Oh, I'm going to take you guys into the chapel, which is the way to get out of this
place. You're just killing me tonight.
I know. It's just getting really warm in here. And can't even deal. Although, you know what? I really, and Erin, you know how I am. Chris, you know how I am. I really want to go up these ladders and like find out what the heck is up here. Look.
Yeah, see, no, you and I are not the same. This is why we're good co-hosts, because I would not do that.
Right? Look, like, what is up there?
Don't want to know. Looks like a cell.
Doesn't it? There's another one over here.
They're coming up the hall with you, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know what's good to see? This is kind of off the beaten trail, but obviously it looks like there's some renovation going on, or maybe that's just for something else. But looks like maybe some plastering and stuff like that. That's what's happening there, Carrie?
It's
I think it's more to hold the ceiling up, isn't it?
They're trying to restore it because this is the ceiling and it's falling down.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just think it's wonderful that they're investing the money for these things back into the facility. So I just wanted to say that real quick. That's not always the case. So good for them.
It isn't always the case. No. It's one of the things I admire about Ohio State Reformatory, and it's also one of the things I admire about Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Greg and Kathy Fiketic have done a ton of work to raise money for that place, and the amount of work that they've done, even from last year, to see some of the differences this year. I mean, they're constantly trying to make the place better because it was really close to getting condemned. Yeah, you're thinking
it was, until again Stephen King swooped in and saved it with the Shawshank Redemption.
Right.
Making a face, guys, because this is where I have to go to get out of this crazy long room.
Oh, that little teeny narrow, yeah.
Carrie, real quick too, is Ohio State Reformatory, is that the one actress that's like 7 feet tall that works there for Halloween?
Ooh, you know what? I don't know.
Ask somebody who works if there's somebody who works there. We tried to get her on before, but I think she's kind of shy about it. But she's huge on social media.
She's legit 7 feet tall.
Oh well, no, she's got the heels and all that stuff.
Oh,
but she's
like, holy crap.
Yeah,
I'm still working past. She's huge on social media.
Yeah, she's huge in meaning she's big on there. Okay, so
wow.
Well, this is season 1 of Ghost Hunters.
Huh?
Are you guys able to see where I'm at?
You're on cell block on the side there, right?
Way at the top.
Yep. And it's what, 6 levels or 5?
6.
And isn't it the single? What did they tell us? What did Gary tell us? It's like if you blew the walls out, no matter what you did, that metal cage basically would still be standing. Like it's one of the largest freestanding steel structures in the world or in the country.
It holds the world record for the largest freestanding cell block.
That's what it is. Okay.
Here is the lovely chapel, Erin. Remember? Can you guys see it? Is the light bright enough?
No, you can see the columns, but I still don't like it for what that's worth.
Yeah, it's terrible. I hate it. I'm going to actually go back into the other room because it's light.
Chris, I saw them too. I saw them too.
It's super dark.
I don't know if you saw Chris's message. You got 4 with you.
4 with me? Yeah, I knew that.
I saw him walking up behind you in the attic. So Chris just confirmed that. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to go grab my earbuds for this. And so I left Scott and Zach up here. And I came back and I'm like, how's it going? And they're like, well, we're hearing bangs and rocks. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Sounds about right. Yeah. That tracks.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm going to hop off, guys. I've got
Thank you.
Investigating to get done. I'm going to do some lives for the podcast Facebook page.
Have fun.
But yeah, thank you so much again, Ken, for having me. It's always such an honor to be on the show. And it's a tremendous honor to be doing a show for your network. You guys, I'm grateful. George, I will steal any guests that I want to.
No.
Putting that out there right now.
Hey, 1 or 2's already volunteered with no push from us, just so you're aware.
You know,
okay. Get you Ben Hansen in about 18 months.
We'll just have to hold it down till then, Carrie. We'll just have to do it.
So now it's just going to be a competition between me and George and the guests. All right, guys. I love you.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you so much for tuning in.
Love you,
Chris. Thank you so much for joining. And I'm going to go, look for some ghosts.
Go run amok.
Yeah, hey, we'll see you Thursday, Carrie. Keep everybody safe. You stay safe, too.
I will. Bye, guys.
Bye.
I wish she was the human sacrifice now. She's going to get all my guests.
I'll make sure to tell her.
She's going to get all my guests. Unbelievable.
Chris, real quick, Chris Allgood. He's weighing in on this and some of his impressions. I'm going to take it Chris and Audra have been to OSR. I don't know if that was.
I don't know if Chris, but Chris has some pretty powerful abilities himself that he is able to really help with things. But I saw 4 coming up behind her. That's why I told her, says you got some behind you, but he's seeing them. So buzz cut, 2 with 70s styles hair, and 1 has a beard. But he said no, they have not been to OSR.
Yeah. Okay, Chris. It's just
Wait, Ken, I just had an epiphany.
Another one?
What if we steal Chris Allgood for a Sunday show?
Do it.
I think we could listen. I know a guy.
You know a guy.
I know a guy who knows a guy who knows Chris Allgood.
We could probably make that happen.
It's getting Audra on the show. That's the real get.
She's like the sweetest human ever.
Carrie, when you watch this back, hon, nani nani boo boo. We're taking Chris from you.
This is the way it's going to be. Shots are fired. Shots are fired.
Well, and Chris and Audra too. They oversee, kind of handle a location in North Carolina called the Montgomery House, which has a lot of things that happen, and they are there a lot. So from an evidence and kind of a perspective of 2 people that spend a lot of time at one place, kind of as the overseer when events are going on, they have some really interesting information on that as well. So, yeah.
Erin, I'm still so disappointed. You live in per capita one of the most haunted cities in America, and you're still afraid of a little prison.
You know what's weird though? That prison, it's not fear because I'm scared of it. I had a very similar reaction walking into that cell. The first time I went into it was probably 2011. So well before I was into any of this stuff. We walked into that solitary cell that Chip Coffey was in on Kindred Spirits, and I had the same reaction. I was crying. My mom's still on here, she'll verify. It's not that it's scary, it's so overwhelmingly emotionally sad, the despair, and my issue really more than anything with it is the way it's the only place that I feel like in St. Augustine should not be a tourist location. And that's just my personal opinion, because we know some of the stories there. I know what I feel when I walk in there, and I get the point, because it is very active and it is, a very historical location. There's a lot of things there, but that place to me is just so overwhelmingly sad. It's not a fear. I just don't like the way I feel when I'm in there.
Yeah, I feel, because I was there with you, at least on that one occasion, and I feel as if I failed you as an investigator going out with you. And maybe I didn't really consciously focus on the fact that you're still somewhat of a newbie. You don't act that way. But when you were in there, I remember you having that same sensation, that same feeling again, that I should have said, elaborate, and stay in there and elaborate, get past the raw emotion and see whether or not they're going to give you more to interact with. And I didn't do that. And so what you're dealing with is the same Achilles heel that I have and have had since from Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in a geriatric ward, where I could not get past the bottom of that ramp. Just couldn't. The gut instinct, the heart palpitations, the shortness of breath, and I backed away. And to this day, I want to go back there and fight that temptation. But I understand 100% where you're coming from.
Yeah. Oh, Satori Hawes, my girl. Yeah, I think it's
look who's on.
Yeah.
Just putting it in her voice. Look who's on.
Look who's starting trouble. But even when we went back that night to the jail, I was, hair touching, that kind of thing. So for me, it's always I know, like you, when I worked at the farm, I have 100,000 memes I'll have to send you. My guides kind of dumb me down a little bit on my ability level. Like, I don't pick up on half the stuff I probably should, but that's because they know I am new. I'm not an investigator. I've only really done 2 ever. And I have a lot to learn in that regard. And I think that's what I love about Carrie so much. It's because she pushes me out of my comfort zone from that aspect, because for me, it is the emotional end of it that gets me so badly. You know, but I did have an experience at the farm where it was all, I mean, I was in tears. I was overwhelmed, and it was, yeah, you've been slacking on that today, Tori. I'll expect those all on here by the time we're done. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
right.
Tori, you're on every other Thursday, and you know, well, that was weird is on the alternate Thursdays, but the both of you now have the responsibility of getting us to 100,000 followers so that we can say to your dad, "Nani nani boo boo."
Anything you can do, I can do better. Right. But I think, like at the farm, there was a night, and Steve happened to, thank God, be in the camper on the property. But it was the first time where I understood why people can quickly shift from it just being scary to being so overwhelmed that now you feel like you're being attacked. And I knew I wasn't being attacked, but that fight or flight in your body starts kicking in. And I sat there in tears, saying to myself over and over, Steve is in the camper, 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 because everything in my body was telling me to run the hell out of that house. And it wasn't because there was anything negative going on. There was just hours worth of banging and knocking and tons of it. And I'd never experienced anything like that. So I knew I was a bit out of my element. And I mean, who takes their first job in the paranormal field is at the Conjuring house and stay there for 3 weeks? Like, again, that's don't say no to your life. But I realized real quick what my limits are, you know, and I wasn't ready for some of that yet. But that's just because I don't have the experience. But I'm open to that too. You know, I've worked past a lot of that end of it, of the fear side of it, because I've had to. And that was one of the things I loved about my job at the farm, is that it constantly challenged me, pushed me out of my comfort zone. Sleep out in the field for 6 nights for your first time. I mean, I've tried to meet the challenge as it's been presented to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, getting used to be comfortably uncomfortable.
Right.
But there's an interesting dichotomy in this, right? As a decidedly non-psychic or sensitive investigator, there are certain places I won't go to for my own reasons. I mean, they won't let you on the Gettysburg battlefield anyway.
Right.
But there are certain places that I will say, and there's probably a lot to be gleaned from it, but it's just kind of like, I'm going to leave that one alone out of respect. For somebody who's empathic or a sensitive, the reasons that they won't go into a place are decidedly different. Not that, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that you don't respect that either.
Right. I know what you mean.
But, you know, there may be an entirely different reason that you're put off by something and I'm put off by something. But I think we have to understand that not all of these stories have happy endings, and that's just how it is.
Well, and I think too, you know, I was at Sorrel Weed in Savannah with Andrea for an event, and I'd never been there. I didn't really know anything about the house. And we walked into that back carriage house where the story is, you know, that the slave was, you know, was supposedly hung herself in the back room, which anyway. But I got up I couldn't even walk in. As soon as I got to the carriage house, my throat closed up. I hadn't even heard the story. I didn't know anything about it. And I couldn't breathe. And I said, okay, I got to go in this space. Andrew's like, I'm not going in. I said, I have to see how long I can stand this sensation, because I get the bonus of the clair sense. Like, I actually can feel what's happening.
Are we talking about the Sorrel Weed House?
We are.
Oh, I got stuff to send you.
I bet you do. So we ended up going into the carriage house room. I'm like, I'm just gonna see how long I can stand it. And I got up to the top of the stairs, and my guides have done this before. They will bounce me out of a space. Like there's a force field. And it's not because it's scary. It's because they know that whatever's in that room emotionally is not good for me. Like for the empath side of it. So I got bounced out of 2 places in Savannah. One of them, the carriage house at Sorrel Weed, I just didn't mess with. The other one was the Davenport house. And I did end up getting in, but then I very quickly learned why they didn't want me in there, because the information I got was exactly why they bounced me out in the first place. So as an empath, yeah, you're getting kind of slaughtered on all sides, I think. So but then again, that's where, you know, this show that we're doing is important because, you know, we also want to talk about how important it is to ground and protect your energy. If you're not doing that, you're asking for a world of trouble potentially.
Well, more, I'm not going to say demonic or malevolent and get dramatic about it, but aggressive spirits, as well as that category I just mentioned, a lot of times they will sense vulnerability, and that's what so being fearful, being trepidatious about going into a place, a lot of times spirits like that will end up going and fucking with you.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
For that reason. So it's the idea, I guess, of trying to, this is what I'm getting at as far as working past something, to set a boundary that, you know, you're going to have to do better than that.
Right.
So I'm not encouraging anybody to go get physically attacked or anything.
No.
Like that.
No.
But to me, there would be sort of oh, I'm the one, I'm the pushover, really.
Right.
You know, I would take that like as kind of a direct challenge.
Yeah.
Which probably isn't the smartest thing to do, but it's how you handle it. I'm not going to stand up there, yeah, punch me in the face. Go ahead, you know.
Right. Whereas I'm like, I just want to learn stuff. Please don't hurt me. I'm just here, you know, like I'm the other end of that, you know. It's like, okay, I swear I'll be nice, you know.
We'll pump the brakes on that, but eventually it may take a couple of goes at it because nobody's perfect their first time out, but it's you know, eventually you're going to have to work through those things to establish yourself, you know, as like, I'm a living person and I belong here. This idea, well, you don't belong here, it's just kind of like, hey, dude, you know, this is a prison, you know?
Right. You left a long time ago. Yeah. Well, I think for me, the thing, and what I loved about the farm is that I learned very quickly how important it is to the spirits to set your intention. And so for me, anywhere I go, hey, Jeff. Anywhere I go, I try to set the intention just with the spirits, because I feel like, you know, you're going to walk into somebody's house, you're going to walk into, you know, wherever it was that they were. It's kind of the Southern polite thing to do, to introduce yourself, say hello, thanks for having me over kind of thing. And so that's kind of how I navigate that. So I haven't really had any issues since I started doing that. I just still need a hell of a lot more experience. And there's just, surprisingly, in St. Augustine, there's like no professional teams down here, or professional, but teams like Rise Up. We don't have that here. Everything's kitschy, part of a tour. That's really all they have down here, which is really sad. And that's why I love New England. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely setting boundaries and learning what works. I think it works. Everybody's got a different way of doing it, I think, you know?
Yeah, and that's fine, because we talked about this before, spirituality as opposed to religion.
Right.
You know, and, you know, I know I'm taking this in kind of a different direction, but I think it plays into your approach to these type of things when you're inside those type of places, whereas religion, you're following dogma.
Correct.
Whereas spirituality, you are seeking your own path.
Correct.
And maybe Jeff, I know Jeff Turner, Soul School is in there. Maybe Jeff wants to weigh in on that.
He's
but
brilliant.
That's my interpretation of what's the difference. You know, when people are religious and, well, I'm more spiritual, they get an awful load of crap for that. It's like, oh, you just don't want to follow a religion. It's like, don't be so quick to judge something like someone who describes themselves as spiritual.
I would post, Jeff just responded to that. Jeff's brilliant, by the way. So if y'all haven't watched Jeff on Andrea's show or any of the others, his podcasts and stuff, that man, he's the only, because I went to Catholic school for 12 years. So I got a big issue with religion. Jeff's helped me through a lot of that. Yeah,
Soul School Soldier, 9 p.m. Friday nights. Dead air.
Yep.
You know, and we always welcome and we love Jeff's perspective on all of this stuff.
And I agree with what he says. You're aggressive, you get aggression. If you're peaceful, you get peace. And I think that's true. I think everything is intention.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean by intention.
Sure.
And maybe it's something that you can carry and can get into in terms of your approach to this stuff. It's not
Mhm.
like you're spending a great deal of time in Ohio State Reformatory and Tower and,
Mm-mm.
all of these places. But the intention, I think at the end of the day, has a lot to do with curiosity,
Yeah.
which is what we're all here to do beyond trying, I guess, to help
Yeah.
in some manner to bring some type of understanding and resolution to whomever is here,
Yeah.
or might be left behind
Mhm.
or in visitation or any one of a number of things. Good question. In your mind, is there one outweigh the other in terms of visitation or some type of confinement or just being left behind, spirits that remain here? Is one, give me a percentage. This is probably an unfair question, but a
What do you mean
percentage.
as far as are they stuck or?
Yeah, come in visitation, or as people like to say, that they're stuck here.
I think you have, my own house. I've had like a random ghost who popped in here who needed a ride to the fort. I had a friend who was going to the fort that morning, and we picked up, figured out he needed a ride to the fort. He was just passing through. I've also got family that's here, when my husband's out of town. My Uncle Tommy typically will kind of pass through this hallway right here. It's kind of like let me know he's around, that he's, keeping things safe. But I think it depends on the spirit. I mean, you look at, were you a good person in life? Are you confident that you may be going somewhere great? I don't know. That's your perspective. But if you were a terrible person, are you afraid of where you may end up? I wonder if it's more of a conscious choice out of, are they fearful of where they may end up? Are they here because they don't know they died? Are they here because they love where they are? I don't know I don't know I could put a percentage on it, because I think there's such a broad spectrum of all those different options.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know if your beliefs in life, you've done something really horrible and you've always followed that you will be judged.
Right.
And maybe that doesn't allow you to let go because
Yeah.
there's that innate sense of anxiety
Yeah.
that remains in your character or your personality. I mean, you could ask these questions and ask them over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Not
I got
sure.
I got an interesting perspective on that, because I read a book, I think oddly, Conversations with God. And one of the points he brought out was, the existence of heaven and hell. Right. And I kind of agree with what the response to that was. It's like, you go wherever you think you're going to go. Like in my case, when I kick the bucket, I hope I end up on a beach somewhere with a pile of tacos on one side and all the dogs in my life and my family on the other. And that's what I'll get. If you feel like, if I was a terrible person and I've convinced myself that I'm going to wake up in hell with fire and brimstone, then that's what I'm going to get. I feel like you get whatever you think you're going to get. That's probably going to make some people mad, but that's just my perspective. But I went to Catholic school for 12 years where it was, you have to follow the rules. Like, it was just this fear-based thing that we kind of had to deal with. And my parents weren't crazy Catholics. They sent us to Catholic school, just for disclosure, because the Atlanta public school system was garbage. So that's how we ended up in Catholic school. But I had to get over that too. The fear of not a heaven or hell situation, but doing the wrong thing, making the wrong decision, getting in trouble. And I feel like with the spiritual side of things, we have free will. You can decide to be a shitty person. You can decide to be a good person. You get to decide what your vibration is, and then you get to run with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and you could push back on that, saying a lot of times people are a product of their environment too.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, they wish they had a choice on that. But those are the people who kind of fall through the cracks, and those are the forgotten people in this world, the ones that we have to sometimes look past what we see into something else.
Right.
And
Totally agree.
I want to bring George back in here, but first I want to give everybody a look at what you're going to be seeing Thursday, and we will wrap it up with that. Here we go. Well, that was weird. I think I got it.
Listen,
It reminded me of my trips to Walmart.
Well, Carrie was talking about a condemned place with a very dark, evil presence in the walls, ceilings falling in, and it sounded suspiciously like my first apartment when I first started living on my own. We actually had a toadstool growing out of the floor in the bathroom.
Ew.
So, yeah, right. And we just respected that toadstool so much for surviving in that environment that we never got rid of it.
Had to honor it at that point.
We did. It deserved to live. But I digress.
Yeah, I think we just wanted, Carrie and I, Carrie's had a podcast for years. She's had Hysteria Haunting for 5 years, I think. And I tend to fumble my way through these things. And, but I think for people, they know, we're setting it up in a way that this isn't going to be some, kumbaya, like you said, kumbaya, everybody come together. This is a madhouse. It is going to go off the rails. I guarantee it. And at least if we set that up, if you fire us, we won't be surprised, but we're trying to be honest about it. We're trying to be realistic about what this looks like. And I feel like if we do it any other way, then we're not getting the message out that we want to get.
Yeah. Don't worry. We're not going to fire you for that. Stealing
you might
guests,
fire me for other
yes.
stuff.
Find something else.
Yeah,
Steal
no problem.
guests. No problem.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, though, when you guys have talked about who you're going to bring on, and you said there are people already that are queued up to be on your new show, but are there going to be scenarios where you're helping people cope? Because that seems to be, at least what I'm seeing in the chat, something that people really need a hand with.
Yeah.
And maybe through your own stories and Carrie's own stories, how you've dealt with it. And again, you guys are both fairly new to your experiences. So
Correct.
to be able to grab the reins that quickly for some others out there that may have been dealing with this for years, perhaps their entire life, is that going to be part of the format for you guys?
Yeah, we're really not going to be guest focused. We may have one or two on. I know Satori and I had talked, because Satori loves rocks just as much as we do. So, and Tori's very much onto the metaphysical side of things. And I think, but for us, that's really the crux of it. We want people to be able to ask questions. We've talked about having like a Q&A session. We kind of talked about like Cody and Satori when they ask questions for that game that they do ahead of time. Right. Our goal is to help other people navigate this through our disaster ways of getting through it. But that is our main goal, is to really, not be as guest focused, because you guys already do that. But we want to help other people kind of navigate this themselves.
Well, the thing is, and we've said this, one of the purposes of this channel going way back, like, first of all, do we want to do this? Second of all, why the hell do we want to do this?
Right.
The reason that this show exists now is because we see you.
Right.
And by you, we mean the people who watch, the people who follow, the people who take time to support us. We see you. Mm-hmm. And the paranormal is much, much more, as much as we love to have these people, than the A-listers, because normal, typical, everyday people have these experiences, and they have these questions.
Yeah.
So we try to be those normal people who, if we can't answer it, because we don't know everything, we'll try to find a way that you can work through it. The process. We can't, do this and you're all set. It's like, I wish it was that easy.
Well, and I think that's an interesting point too. I know in a lot of the energy sessions I've done, I've taken a hiatus from that for a while, but I think that's the thing. I am only, and Carrie too, we're only going to kind of navigate it and offer you some tools, but you're the one doing the work on it. Like, people would come and say, oh, your energy work is so great, and thank you. And I'm like, no. I'm just a battery, like a complicated copper tube for energy. I'm just giving you the tools. You're healing yourself. You're learning and practicing this yourself. I think for a lot of other people, there are healers that take too much credit for the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
I don't want any of that. I want to give you the tools because I'm still fumbling around with it myself. And I want you to pat yourself on the back when you start finding the path that you want to be on, because that's the work you did. That's not the work I did. I just gave you the tools. That's it.
I would love to see maybe in the community chat, or, I'd love to do this privately. And I don't want to overwhelm you folks, but maybe somebody out there has a situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just workshopping it in my head, but occasionally, maybe not by name, but you address maybe a situation.
Sure. We're open for anything.
I don't know. I mean, we'd have to logistically work that out.
Well, we also thought, after the first show or two, we would ask, the viewers, what do they want to see? What would you like to see from us that we can help you figure out? I mean, we're for us, nothing's set in stone. I mean, again, you're not going to see me writing, spending an hour coming up with questions. I kind of just roll with it. But I think we want the community to be as involved as they want to be. We want to help them. That's what we're doing.
I mean, George and I are always handing out free advice to people, but they never take it.
No.
I take advice all the time. Stop it.
Less than 60 seconds. Erin, give one more push. When is the show airing and at what time?
We will be doing our first show August 22nd, which is Thursday at 8 o'clock. So we hope you'll come hang out with us, watch the train wreck unfold in real time, and, maybe learn a thing or two along the way.
That's 8 p.m. Eastern.
Correct. 8 p.m. Eastern. Yep.
And we are now 2 weeks away from getting into the pre-Halloween spirit. Exorcist Bill Bean will be joining us on the 1st of August.
Cool.
We still have another week before that happens, and you never know what surprises along the way. For our Patreon members, we'll see you guys tomorrow night in Town Hall. And I want to thank all of you for joining us this evening. I want to thank Erin and Carrie, and best of luck on your Thursday debut.
Thank
And we'll be seeing you guys next week. Until then, have a good rest of your week. Thanks for watching. Don't forget again to hit that thumbs up for us, guys. Always appreciate it. On behalf of Ken DaCosta, my name is George Lopez. Have a great night.
Bye.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad. After her there ain't no coming back. Wanna take a run at that. I think she's feeling me. Turn it up a few degrees. My imagination of her